How often do providers get the opportunity to change their rating?
Well, the rating is based upon our consult activity or review activity with that provider, depending upon what type of provider they are. And it gets updated as those consults and reviews take place. Additionally, they get updated as follow-ups take place. So if we see any changes when we go out, 3 months after the initial review, and their scores have increased as a result of that, we would see that change to the system as well.
Who reviews Delmarva for quality assurance and tool validity, reliability, and standardization?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's important to know that what we're using out there is something that's accepted as reliable, something that does give meaningful information. We have a number of systems that are in place to do that. Obviously, our contract is through ACA, and ACA and APD have worked jointly since the inception of this contract to really look at what Delmarva's role has been, what Delmarva's performance has been, and so they are involved in that. All of our reports are available to ACA and APD. All of the studies we conduct and the quarterly reports, the annual reports, all go through a screening with ACA and APD to evaluate our information. We report regularly to the Interagency Quality Council. They have an opportunity to provide feedback on, are we meeting our performance objectives as an organization. Internally, we have extensive quality controls. We have inter-rater reliability processes where managers go out. First, managers are set up with reliability. They go out and they review our consultants to ensure that they're meeting reliability. We have managers reviewing consultants who they don't supervise. So you get, again, another perspective, multiple layers of that. The managers review every report before it goes out, ensuring that the documentation that is there to justify a particular finding is sound, is legitimate, and does meet the procedures we have established. On the WISC side, we also do the person-centered review, and as part of the person-centered review, we do personal outcome measure interviews. The council, who established and developed the personal outcome measures, also does reliability with our staff. So they'll go out annually to ensure that we're not drifting in how we're conducting those interviews. That's been one of the real kind of long-standing measures within the system from 5 years prior to Delmarva having this contract. And so we want to make sure that the data is being captured similarly, from year to year, person to person, et cetera.
Okay. And so many terms have been utilized for Delmarva process. We have seen shifts in the language from consultation to reviewer. Ultimately, most providers view this process as an audit. Please explain what makes this process a consultation or review, and why does it seem that Delmarva seems to shy away from the term audit?
Yeah, I'm not sure that most providers would say it's an audit. I think maybe some outspoken providers would say it's an audit. We really work hard to get away from that audit component. I've used this example for a long time. It's a continuum. If you picture the IRS on one end, and you picture someone you would pay $10,000 to come into your organization to provide a consultative service, on this end, you're looking at two very different perspectives. IRS comes in, what's your goal? Your goal is probably to get the IRS out, right? To give them the minimal information you can to say, here's what I have, I don't want to have paybacks, etc. Okay, it's a different mindset, and there's a fear component. If you get a call, the IRS wants to come see you, it's a different mindset. If I'm bringing someone in, if I'm bringing a consultant in, and I'm paying them $10,000 as an example, I want to know that I'm going to get something quality out of that. My perspective on how I share information, what information I share is going to be very different. I'm going to want you to know as much about me as possible so you can help me to improve. I'm going to want you to know where I have deficiencies. I'm going to want you to know where I'm struggling. Because if you don't know where I'm struggling, you don't know where to help me, okay, and what kind of assistance to provide. When we shifted gears from the provider performance review to the core and the WISC, a big part of that was a change in terminology, a change in philosophy. A lot of information that we had gathered prior to that point was not necessarily being used to enhance quality. Just the resources weren't there for follow-up on it to make things happen. So we put in place more of a follow-up with technical assistance process. We approach the original consult, the core and the WISP, with more of a consultative tone, so that we can create an environment where people are more willing to share information. We have the opportunity to share best practices from across the state. We have the opportunity to help people to enhance their service delivery. It's not just a matter of, the audit is, we found the problem, gotcha, we're reporting the problem.
Right.
Yes, we're going in, we're looking to find the problem. We will report on a problem if it is found, but we're also there to provide you support, to provide you assistance, to help you understand what are the requirements of your role. We meet a lot of support coordinators, a lot of providers who have been in it for 6 months.
Right.
Very green, don't know what they're into, don't understand all of the billing requirements. They're just sponges waiting to absorb information. If all we did was go in and say, gotcha, 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 are they going to walk away a lot wiser than when we first arrived? They'll walk away with some knowledge that they didn't have. But if we can say, here are systems we've learned from this support coordination entity that's been involved in the process for the last 5 years, or here's what this provider has to help kind of cover that system, to cover that requirement. Well, we can now help that new, young support coordination entity or provider to really expand their skill set right from the start. And the bottom line is not how is Delmarva reviewing that specific entity, that specific support coordinator or provider, but how is the system overall performing, okay? And if we can enhance each one of those entities within the system and hopefully create that open communication of a consultative process as opposed to an audit process, we then have the opportunity to really enhance that whole service delivery system. So a lot of the feedback we get, because we do as part of our, again, a part of our reliability process, we give providers and support coordinators a feedback instrument. They could go online and fill out feedback to us, and we get feedback from many, many providers and support coordinators. And a lot of it is very positive. We will get, the ones, I don't like the process, it felt like an audit, etc. But for every one of those, we get a couple dozen that say, thank you for coming out. We've really learned a lot from you.
Is that an anonymous type of way for them to report?
Yeah, it can be done anonymously, absolutely. And in fact, recently I presented to the Interagency Quality Council about 300 comments that, again, were positive comments about the process that we captured over about a year and a half period of time. And really looked at, thank you for coming out and creating a consultative environment. Thank you for sharing information. I learned a lot during this process. I'm striving to be achieving. Next time you come out, I'm going to be achieving. So again, it's a lot of people who are grasping onto the concept of, if I'm going to provide better service quality, I need to accept this as a consultative environment. The more open I am with the consultant, the better off we're ultimately going to be. And we really work with them to say, just because we're gone doesn't mean you have to stop communicating with us. A number of providers and support coordinators have ongoing communication with the consultant who had come out. So we may be there for a review, we may be there then for a follow-up with technical assistance, but they may call them again 3 months later, 6 months later. The cycle may not come around yet for our consultant to go out and visit them, but they say, there's value in what I started with this person. There's value in what I'm trying to achieve, and let me keep that communication line going to make sure I'm on the right track.